Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Curious Talks. Today's podcast guest is Matthew Harris, who's the co founder and CEO of IRL Studios, the maker of Gymclass VR. And Gymclass VR is an interesting VR basketball game. So, I sat down with Matthew Harris to talk about the experience of building Gymclass VR and how would fitness be impacted by virtual reality and as well as the world of sports. Plus, I've talked a lot about community building and a decentralization of sports. So, in case any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure to keep watching this podcast. And in case there's any particular part which you're interested in, there are timestamps in the description. So, here's my conversation with Matthew Harris. Matthew, first of all, like, what's Gym Class VR?
Gymclass, we're basically building the most physically realistic basketball game ever. And this is really thanks to advances in mobile VR. You know, the Quest is untethered. We're able to take advantage of just not being tied down anymore. Players connecting all over the world can jump in and feel what it's like to shoot like LeBron and dunk and, you know, just be their kind of embody their favorite star. But really, gym class is about the player. You know, it's a very skill based game. There is a learning curve. So people will go in and kind of improve their shots and practice. And right now, you know, we have just a bunch of players connecting and playing one-on-ones all the way up to 3v3s and kind of just free shooting and having fun and playing basketball.
What was the inspiration about the idea? Like, how did you come up with Gym Class VR, or was it like some sort of iteration process which happened?
I've been in VR for quite some time now, and I'm super excited about the Quest. Worked on a title as well. You know, at my last job, we were doing some really cool stuff. You know, met some great people, worked with some great people. Our studio shut down, you know, unfortunately due to COVID. So kind of, you know, I ran the engineering team there. And the other founder, Justin, ran the art team, and we kind of wanted to continue working together. At the same time, I was talking to another buddy of mine who's our third founder, and you know we were playing ping pong, racket fury in VR. It was so fun, and you know I wasn't doing a lot of social or multiplayer VR then, and you just kind of realize that as you're playing, you're catching up, and that those memories are more sticky and more ingrained, and it's just a fun time. So we all kind of got together and thought, you know, let's just make like a lot of little prototypes and see what sticks. The game actually started out as a tetherball game, which is really interesting. It was sort of like a joke in a way. We figured, okay, well, now that you know virtual reality is untethered, it'd be hilarious to make a tetherball game inside it. And it turns out that it was fun. The physics were super cool with the rope and the ball and everything, but it's actually quite boring, and you can't really have more than two people play at a time. We were also demoing, you know, hockey and volleyball and basketball kind of privately, and then just a flood of basketball enthusiasts and players jumped in and we sort of kind of like pushed our direction into making this multiplayer basketball game.
I was very curious about this part. Like we have seen a lot of these games and like all of these companies making these efforts about like pushing fitness into VR. So like how do you think like how does a VR workout work? Which is it like essentially the same thing, or like how do you think it's really different or making a major impact? Because like we have seen that it kind of reduces the pain and like takes you away through like escapism in a weird way. Like it kind of distracts you from like you're thinking that you're doing an actual workout, so it's kind of fun. So how do you think it works and makes more impact in comparison to normal workouts which you do in your gym or at home?
Yeah, I mean, fitness in VR is really interesting, and it's definitely like a focus of Facebook moving forward. I think personally, one of the reasons is like, you know, being able to sell the Quest as a workout device will help sort of grab some of that older demographic versus more game like. But also, it's really like what you put into it is what you get out of it, right? In gym class, you know, not everybody is 6'4" and the ability to dunk in you know, on a real hoop, but we kind of give you a little bit of superpowers there, you know, for dunking. Obviously, locomotion, you can totally move around in your real space. People have tried it out at basketball courts and just not even use the joysticks to move around. But from a fitness perspective, you know, if you're jumping and you're playing basketball on 3-on-3, it gets really competitive. You know, a lot of sports is really just like the ones that appeal to me from like from a workout perspective, would be like rock climbing and stuff like that, where in this zone where you're working out, and it's really just kind of being competitive and having fun and connecting with these random people. And it's not too sweaty, but if you're really getting into it, your class is going to be drenched in sweat.
Like how, like, are there any insights on your end about like how this has been working out for Gymclass? Like any kind of calories or any kind of user testimonials about how like they're not really willing to work out with their home equipment, but now that they got this tool, they are feeling better and like trying to do this.
Just, are you talking about like kind of like the iteration on the product?
No, like are they like really like having like is there like any kind of insight on like how calories are being burnt or anything like that?
So, it does hook up with Oculus Move. There has been like a few articles that have showed sort of like the calorie burn. It's not, fitness is sort of like on the back of our mind right now, but definitely people use it as a substitute for working out. During COVID, we've had a ton of players, male and female, who have used it to substitute for like basketball camp, right? Like that just didn't exist. It was kind of like a way, almost like this COVID project for people to connect and actually get a workout. It's quite amazing because a lot of people will see footage on social media, Reddit, Twitter, and they're like, oh, is that artificial intelligence, or how are you doing that? And the reality is there's 8 people connected throughout throughout the world instantly. And it's just like it's just like really super cool to see what these players do creatively kind of within that, even from a workout perspective. When you see somebody doing a dunk, they're doing 360s, they're doing 540s, 1080s, like they're actually moving around in their physical space, and just kind of like having a blast about it.
So you like mentioned about how like the people are using it as like a substitute for like normal basketball practice camps. So like has this been something like you're partnering with some sort of companies or brands to like do the same like for like some training camps, anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the reality is, and it's quite wild, is that nothing is there, right? Like nothing exists. Our gym is an NBA regulation size gym. The basketballs are regulation. The physics are tuned as best we can and continue to iterate. But there's still no weight to the wall. So we're using sort of these tricks to immerse the player in VR, where it's almost binary, and they think, okay, I'm actually shooting this basketball, and this feels like I'm shooting this basketball. So that's kind of like sort of the output we want when people are playing.
This is a very big question around VR, at least from the people who are not adopted it yet, about like how VR and dizziness happens. Like because people think that if you playing VR, you're also like feeling dizzy, especially with something which is as active as gym class or requires a, like active movement. Is it really a problem, or has it been solved? And if it's a problem, then how are you working on solving it?
Yeah, so I grabbed a dev kit one, a DK1 back in the day, and I was just it was actually like the most nauseous day I've ever had in my life. The first thing I did was actually put the United Center where the Chicago Bulls play into the headset in my MacBook Pro that was from 2009. It was super old. It ran at like 20 frames per second. I wanted to make an app that would show people what their view from the seats they purchased in the arena would actually look like. And it turns out, kind of getting into the VR industry shortly after, like I am the worst with dizziness and with sickness. Across all of our users from a data perspective, our frame rate runs at 72 frames per second across every device, both Quest 1 and Quest 2. And we do some really cool tricks with locomotion as well. And one of that is, as you're dribbling, as you're moving about, your gaze is incorporated, right? So where you're looking is also part of where you'll go. And to answer your question, like we really haven't had any issues with people reporting dizziness. It's been super cool in that regard because it's definitely like a risky sport to tackle. But like 99.9% of people in it just aren't dizzy at all.
More about like the increase in the frames per second support which has happened with these VR devices, because earlier it was quite less in comparison. So is it the iteration on that which is the reason? Because like Quest 1 and Quest 2 both have had like 90 frames per second and then now 120. So is that the reason?
Yeah, so 72 is a great frame rate for both of them. We can push. We have them tapped at 90 and 120 with the Quest 2. So besides just making sure you have an optimized frame rate, it's really just making sure you're doing smooth linear movement for the player. Taking feedback. Like we have a Discord community of 800 people, and a lot of them are forming their own leagues, and a lot of them are joining teams and recruiting other players. And kind of like our core users, we jump in gym class with them every day. Whether we're just having fun and shooting around, or whether we're trying to QA or test new features. So we kind of get feedback instantly in that regard, and this kind of allows us to move fast and do multiple releases a week.
You have taken like your community has been pretty helpful in that case, like and like having those people giving you real time feedback rather than like having testers come around, like you are having this whole real time one on one feedback. So that's really interesting, like but like there's one thing that I wanted to also have mind, because the mission is to like bring up like have sports which allow like you don't need to be living in US to be an NBA basketball player or a top league player. So like allowing everyone to be LeBron or Michael Jordan or be Tom Brady for in case of rugby or something. So like, do you think like sports might end up becoming decentralized in a way, like with through VR, instead
Yeah,
of
I
having
mean,
centers like central countries where if you are playing cricket then you are in India, if you are playing football or something then you are probably living in France or some other country like that. So yeah.
yeah, no, totally. I mean, one of the things we strive for is that this is connected instantly. You could load the app, jump into a gym instantly, and currently our avatars are kind of anonymous, right? Your height will be what your height is, but with the Quest being a $300 device, and anyone who has access to it around the world, our app's currently free. We're just trying to get as many people in as possible. And there's these just amazing players from all nationalities in all different demographics. Where maybe they're not going to be 6'4" one day, but they're just really good at basketball in this context. And we even ran like an all-star dunk contest that we streamed live to Twitch. And one of the things we're proud of is that out of the 8 people in there, we spanned across like 6 continents. Connected at the real time. A lot of people will say, "Oh, well, why don't you just go out and play basketball?" And it's like, well, I can't walk out of my house and be in India. That's not how that works. So, we see a future where thousands and thousands of games are being played, and actually turning this into an esport in the future.
Decentralizing, like removing like one particular center in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a sense it sort of already is, right? Like there's demographics on, what percentage of players play, your game from around the world that Oculus provides. I can't share any of that data. But it's cool to see play coming in from a bunch of countries at a regular basis. It's a very interesting take on VR, and with our streaming capabilities, it's getting more and more enjoyable to watch these players come up with these creative dunks. Like, people are alley-ooping each other like 3 times before it's going in the basket, or just doing crossovers or dribbles. And there's such a crazy wide range of skill levels. So our goal as a company is always going to be the focus on the player, right? And enabling them to become the superstar, and then also at the same time growing like a very healthy culture in our app itself, and with social VR.
So this is kind of like an extension for the previous question. So like I got this idea when I first saw like the videos of people playing Echo VR. So while they
Mm-hmm.
were playing and like I saw the league finals which were happening, so I was like, okay, this seems something serious which could happen and it could lead to like these new sports coming around with VR and also inventing like stuff which is not really possible by laws of physics and like or maybe allow stuff for like to happen. So do you think that's where do you think like VR sports would go? Is it like the like first like adoption of existing sports into VR, or would it be like completely new sports coming in through VR, or would it be like a mix of both worlds and like a Venn circle where they would meet? Or Echo
Yeah,
VR
I
kind of
mean,
looks like rugby, but in a weird way, similar and different at the same time.
Yeah, like Echo VR is like a really good use case of like making a sport up in like kind of like parameters and constraints that you can, right? Like floating around and like you could do all that in VR. On the flip side, you know, basketball is a wildly popular sport around the world. And, you know, anyone who jumps in, for the most part, has shot a basketball in their life. So I think kind of like the first part is adapting these sports and making them as realistic as possible, that where the rules and are familiar, you know, that people have grown up with, and then moving on to like kind of like, you know, maybe more of like the Quidditch Harry Potter kind of thing where you're making up your own crazy games. Really, I think kind of like the next generation of hardware is going to help out, especially for mobile. You know, no idea what that is, but if we're able to do like, you know, foot tracking in the future, read people's eyes in the future, like it definitely is going to add a lot more realism. Even though the Quest 1's older, it's still a beast. It's a really solid device, and we intend to kind of support that. The Quest 2 has a few features the Quest 1 doesn't. Like our nets are actually physically realistic, like net physics. And we're just trying to like nail in more of the sports that people know first before we start going a little crazy. But we do plan on releasing other products in the future.
Do you think like has there what kind of user base has been there? Like, are these people also like pro basketball players who are coming from different backgrounds, or and like what's the like if people who are performing good in gym class have had prior basketball experience, or are they completely like new people coming into the sport with no clue? Like not exactly new, but like have just played like once or twice or played with friends, something like that.
Yeah, no, it's a wide range. You know, there's people like I mentioned before who take basketball super seriously and go away to camps. There's people who are using it as a form of working out. You know, someone jumps in and you know you go out to the gym and maybe you're like a little bit too shy to try different dribble moves or try different shots. So they like will try it in gym class. And some people actually put some weight on the controller as well. They went to the gym and then I ended up playing with the same player like a little bit after, and they were like, I got better at basketball. So it's like, in some sense, people are improving their skill set. And then the other end of the spectrum is just, you know, more of the younger demographic, like having fun, but they're improving their skills throughout, at least within, you know, the context of gym class. And then kind of like the last note is really accessibility, right? Because we've had like a gentleman who's wheelchair bound and, you know, is able to jump into gym class and shoot hoops just like they were able to before. And I think that's just a very beautiful thing.
Allowing every kind of background also, because with like these traditional sports there's this very thing about like having a lot of discrimination in sessions, so this kind of gets removed.
Yeah, I mean, we have a really good, healthy community. I think social VR in general has a lot of hard problems from building a community that need to be solved. You know, one thing we're super thankful of is kind of our Discord of players. So if there are, you know, people displaying bad behavior, it gets reported instantly and action is taken instantly on that as well. You know, you see this across kind of all the social apps. We're working on some really cool tools to make that even better. But for the most part, you jump in and it's just like a really cool experience, you know, to meet other people. I remember like maybe 2 months ago, I jumped in late at night and there was these two gentlemen, and only one knew English, and the other person was speaking a different language that I wasn't familiar with. And they saw me just do a 360 dunk, and they were like, "Whoa, I want to do that." So it was like I was explaining how to do it in English, and then he was translating right there in front of his buddy who's connected, and then his buddy did it, and then I just left, and I'm sure they had a blast. So like one of the most interesting things I think from a social perspective is that these players are actually growing a following. They're creating their own brand. There is like, you know, the top 20 players, people know their names, people know, you know, everything about them, how they shoot. They jump in the gym, other people want to jump in the gym with them. So it's kind of like this opportunity where if you do put work into it, whether you're a great basketball player or not, or just good at gaming, to like have a following and become a superstar.
at what point, like, do you think like it's going to like lead to some sort of big Premier Leagues like we have seen with like, or like some sort of esports, at what point would you do that? Like right now we are at 3v3 and 4v4, which is coming soon, I guess. So at what point, like, what come out, like, do you think there's going to be 11v11, and at that point you're going to do it, or somewhere before that?
Yeah, so our main like kind of first goal is to sort of like continue building the app until we get to a version 1. We're hoping that's going to be done in about maybe 3-4 months. Be able to go into the Oculus store, open this up to more people. In the background, we're kind of also building up our leagues and continue our streaming technology, because we really do see this as being like an esport one day. We have some crazy ideas. Like if you imagine like location based, like you sort of go around the world into a warehouse with hardwood floors. Each is kind of chunked up into 20 feet by 20-foot places. And you just got like 100 people in there connecting with everyone around the world, playing basketball if they're, hearing the squeaks on the floor as well. There's definitely opportunities for location based. It's a little bit interesting due to COVID. But the other thing is it provides access to people that don't normally have VR and kind of introduces them to VR as well. So there's definitely like a lot of opportunity there, but we definitely intend on making our own esport and launching kind of our own esport, starting with basketball.
That's it from my side. Do you have any kind of anything else you want to tell to people who are seeing this, or anyone
No,
who
I
might
mean,
be from a community?
yeah, no, I mean, this is super cool. I appreciate you asking these questions. We're excited at IRL to continue building, Gymclass and moving forward. And, the community is great. And it's just really exciting, super, super thankful to be able to wake up every day and build some crazy stuff. And they're kind of like, they won't let us not build it. So there's a lot of passion from our community as well. And we're going to continue to keep supporting that.